welcome to a very special international edition of The Learning Curve. I'm David Lee, and I'm in slightly misty conditions on Brighton Beach, which is as close as I could get to Barbados, home to this year's Childnet International Awards, celebrating the websites that help children make the most out of the internet. Also on this show, keep surfing safe. I'll be talking to Stephen Bolcom from the Internet Content Rating Association about the safeguards you can activate in any computer to prevent children from viewing unsuitable material. And Stephen Carrick-Davis looks at how a place like the West Indies is managing to bridge the digital divide. The internet is often seen as a rather dangerous playground for children, but over the last few years, one organisation in particular, Childnet International, has been encouraging enterprising projects that can really benefit the younger generation. This year's entries have shown how limited budgets and the input of children themselves can produce inspirational, world-class websites. For an organisation that has existed for less than 5 years, Childnet International can boast an impressive portfolio. The charity's remit is to make the internet safe for kids and to make sure that their interests are promoted and protected. Alongside their day-to-day operations are Childnet's International Awards, an event that gathers together those who contribute most to children's positive use of the internet. This year's awards were held in Barbados, and we caught up with Childnet's founder Nigel Williams, who arrived ahead of preparations to find out what the awards meant.
Well, Childnet devised the idea of the awards because we wanted to be able to highlight innovative things that children were doing and those working with them using the internet to connect together from right across the world.
This year's awards attracted budding web designers from 26 different countries. The finalists who made it to Barbados had to fight it out for the 11 prizes, which were split into 4 categories. And for those of you who'd like a chance to go to Washington, D.C. next year, here's a guide to what the judges are looking for. If you think you can go it alone and have an idea you think will appeal to a global audience, then maybe the individual category is for you. The section looks at how a single person's site has an impact on users. Previous winners include a Hawaiian site which extends class lessons through the net, a child-safe site and a webzine. The not-for-profit prize goes to voluntary organizations using the web to spread their message, give advice, campaign or simply raise their profile. Those rewarded have included an Egyptian computer club, a virtual opera society linking Wales and Canada, and an environmental site for students all over the world. As an educator or a student, the Schools Award is where your own school website could fit in. This category particularly looks at how the web can be used to bring isolated schools into a closer relationship with others and allow the students themselves to decide what they need. Last year, winning schools came from Australia, Ireland, France and Wales. The final category is aimed at the level of national governments. New this year, it aims to encourage leaders on a local and a national scale to make the internet more integral to the education of the country. And with less than 11 months to go until the awards in 2001, it's time to get web building. Some of this year's finalists had travelled from as far away as India and Namibia to be at the awards, and after most had checked into their hotels, we caught up with them on a day trip across the island to find out what they had to say about their websites. Our first stop was designer Rory Byrne from Sutton Park School in Ireland.
Well, Mission Possible is a website about the environment, and we tried to make saving the environment something fun and exciting so that young people like ourselves would hopefully grow up and not think of it as a drag to have to carry out.
This creative site challenges children to save Agent Environment from the evils threatening him, whilst giving practical advice on campaigning for a safer planet. It certainly leaves other sites green with envy. Meanwhile, Joan Fleitus from Connecticut in the States was hot on the heels of scooping the individual category for their site, Band-Aids and Blackboards.
I designed Band-Aids and Blackboards to try to make the world a better place for children with medical problems, whatever those problems might be, to help them not be so teased, not be so stigmatized, not be so isolated as they confront all the challenges that are sort of part and parcel with having medical problems.
The site also contains children's stories, poetry, and a hospital tour for parents and children to explore together. Another site, designed by 15-year-old Jason Fernandez from Mumbai in India, was inspired by his own battle to overcome a learning disability.
My site is a learning disabled kids support, and it aims to help learning disabled kids tackle their problem and to help them overcome their disability, or at least try to overcome it.
This site is an excellent example of how one young person can use the internet to highlight an issue and provide valuable information to others. With only 11 to choose as winners, the 3 judges would have their work cut out for them, and at the end of the first day's outings, competition was proving hot amongst the finalists. Not content to let our finalists savour the delights of Barbados undisturbed, we asked them for their top tips on constructing a website. So, taking time out from those soothing shores, here's what they came up with. Keep it simple. First and foremost, you want to make sure that users can navigate your masterwork easily and understand at once what's on offer. Sometimes fancy doesn't mean easy. If you're without the calming sounds of waves crashing against the shore, the best way to ease download frustration is to avoid too many graphics. Animation enthusiasm is all very well, but it will slow download time, and only the most patient will make it to the site. Meanwhile, setting up friendly relations with people all over the world can help to get your message out there. Setting up links with other sites is easy to do, and can broaden your reach to like-minded people who make regular use of other sites. And finally, to get on the map in the first place, choose a name that's simple. Make it easy to remember, but also make it clear what your site's about. A gimmicky name alone won't bring in the crowds. Now, Childnet are highlighting the positive use that children can make of the internet. But as everyone knows, it's not all plain surfing. Here to give me some tips on how to minimize some of the dangers is Stephen Bolcom from the Internet Content Rating Association.
Hello.
So Stephen, can you tell me a little bit about what ICRA does?
ICRA is an independent non-profit organization based in the United States and here in Britain. And we are a rating and filtering system for the internet. We allow parents to block off material they don't want their children to see.
And how do parents actually go about using the system?
Well, it works in 2 ways. First of all, content providers or websites come to our site, www.icra.org, and rate their website with us along certain categories such as nudity, sex, language, and violence. And for these, they get certain scores, and these are then translated into a meta tag or an HTML tag, which they place in the header of their homepage. That's the content provider side. For parents, they go into their browsers, either Microsoft's Internet Explorer or Netscape's Navigator. And there they can set the levels that they feel are appropriate for their children to view when they're surfing the web.
So what happens if someone tries to visit a website that's perhaps not joined up with your association? Does that just get blocked automatically?
There is an option in both of the browsers to say, do not go to unrated sites. And when a child goes to an unrated site, it will be blocked. But the parent is given the opportunity to put in a password to let the child through if they wish them to do so. And in Microsoft's browser, you can add that URL to your own approved list. So that shouldn't be a problem.
Apart from using your system, what other advice can you give to parents to minimize the risks of their children using the internet?
Well, our filtering system is no substitute for parental involvement. We would probably advise parents to keep the computer in a public room, in a room like, I say public, but in a room like their sitting room, in the kitchen, somewhere where they can keep an eye on what their children are doing. Sit with your child, learn how to surf the net with them, and convey to them your values so that when they are confronted with something they're disturbed by, they're more likely to come to you and ask you to either get rid of it or just to keep a communication, open lines of communication going.
Thanks very much, Stephen.
Thank you.
Well, we're coming to the end of part 1 on the learning curve, but stay with us because in part 2 we're going to find out the results of the Childnet Awards. Plus we'll be catching up with some of the winners to find out how they did it. See you in a couple of minutes. Hello and welcome back to a special edition of the Learning Curve, bringing you highlights of the Childnet International Awards from Barbados. Now, you'd think that the size of a country's gross domestic product would be a good indication of how advanced it is technologically in its homes, businesses or schools. Now, if you applied that theory to a small place like Barbados, you might think it would be more low-tech than high-tech. But think again. Stephen Carrick-Davis talked to Nigel Williams, director of Childnet International, on how places like Barbados can bridge the digital divide.
In Africa, which has a population of over 700 million people, there are only 1 million people online. Compare that to the UK of some 10 million users. While differences between developed and developing countries are stark, the reality, and a surprising achievement in countries such as Barbados, is that the greatest motivator for bridging the digital divide is one of thinking.
A lot of people are investing a lot of money in the technology, the computers, the telephone lines and so on. For us in Childnet, our role in this is to highlight how children, when given the opportunity, can do some amazing things with the internet, even if they've got quite limited resources.
I caught up with the Barbados Minister for Education, Mia Motley, to see how she viewed the importance of the internet on the upcoming generation.
Minister Motley, we've heard a lot about how the government in Barbados have invested heavily in the infrastructure and in this program called EduTech 2000. Why do you think it's important for all children to have access to the internet?
It's critical that they have access to that information, because if they want to be a player anywhere in the globe, they need to know what is happening. But what's even more critical is how they handle that information. And that's why I keep focusing back on the delivery of the sound education, because the capacity to know how to analyze that information, how to disseminate it, how to reject what is not pure, all of those are critical. But the internet is really just a tool that is as basic now as gasoline to the running of vehicles, but it still requires skill for someone to drive.
So, far surpassing the novelty status of expensive and complicated hardware, computers in the knowledge economy are seen as an essential tool and can serve as a tremendous motivator for children to express themselves, learn new skills and unlock their potential.
Adults are very focused on their jobs and what they're doing, and don't necessarily have the time to be as creative and innovative as they might otherwise be. And when children are now given a platform where they can express that creativity and innovation, and in an economy that prizes the creation of new things, in the knowledge economy that prizes it, then I think that we are going to see far more children be able to do this, because previously the creativity and the innovation was there, but the capacity to promote what they were doing or distribute what they were doing would not have been available to them.
15-year-old Jason Fernandez from Mumbai in India was one such child who used the platform to express himself. His life was revolutionized by the net. After first being diagnosed with dyslexia and being the target of ridicule for years, he used his online voice to share his experiences and offer solace to others with learning disabilities. At a time when so much media attention has been focused on the commercial power of the internet, could this .hope effect and the way in which children are using the new technologies for the good of other children finally be gaining ground?
We have always felt that as a new medium, the internet really offered most to those who were most disadvantaged, those who were in isolated places.
There's no denying that Barbados has experienced its own financial and educational challenges. However, the literacy rate stands at an impressive 98%, and the country is now investing heavily in ICT in the classroom. The internet has been the fastest growing communications phenomena of the 20th century. In a world diverse with cultures, language and abilities, it's proving to be a powerful leveller, offering a common ground and breaking down barriers of distance, disability and social class. Finalists at this year's Childnet Awards all shared the common theme of introducing the internet to peers through a common interest. But for some, getting to that stage wasn't an easy task. The blame on many occasions has been put squarely on cost, the cost of equipment and the low income of much of the population in relation to that cost. However, where governments have made the investment, there can be some remarkable returns. One example is the National Museum of Namibia, who were finalists in the government category of this year's awards. They developed Insectathon, which involved children computerizing 70,000 handwritten inventory records about insects.
The challenge for us in Namibia is very simple. We have 1,600 schools, population of 1.7 million people, and the 1,600 schools in Namibia only, 70% in fact don't have telephones, electricity, toilets or libraries. That is a reality.
The initiative proved a motivating force for big business, which saw their donation of equipment and funds go to a good cause, whilst at the same time educating the population. But it's not enough, and if the knowledge stakes are to be kept between nations, governments will need to take action now to avert a widening divide and close the gap between the information haves and have-nots.
How would you like children in Barbados to get the most out of the internet?
Whether you are black, white or whatever, that epilepsy is epilepsy. Whether you are tall or short, a learning disability is a learning disability. That children all the world over tease children when they appear to be different, and that it is only in explaining to them how they are not different but they are the same that the teasing stops, or that it hurts when they do it. And I believe that Childnet offers an opportunity not just for normal communication, but also for seeing some of the best practices of how we behave as human beings.
It's the night of the awards, but before the ceremony begins, there's time to soak up a bit of Caribbean culture at the reception. There was a huge mix of people from all over the world, and everyone, both young and old, was waiting in anticipation for the winners' names to be announced. So let the ceremony begin.
Welcome to the Cable and Wireless Childnet International Awards 2000. You know, we are here for a very special evening to congratulate young people from all around the world who are using the internet to do some really wonderful things. And this evening we invite you to celebrate with them and their achievements.
And Childnet's very own Nigel Williams was there to announce the awards.
Team of judges. You would have seen none of these projects tonight receiving their awards unless there had been really a very difficult judging process, because the quality was so high this year in the projects that we've seen. We had over 120 entries from 25 countries from every continent. So you can imagine it was not an easy process.
British 15-year-old Matthew Fuller was awarded third prize for his innovative homegrown music site. It acts as a virtual meeting space and runs competitions where musically minded young people can submit their own work Second prize was awarded to another 15-year-old, Jason Fernandez, for his site, Learning Disabled Kids Support in India.
What I believe in is that no challenge is too great for anybody who really wants to achieve something, and especially if they have a friend to share it with. And that's exactly what LD Kids is all about. It's sharing hopes, achievements, coping strategies, and that's something that I'm happy that LD Kids has been able to achieve.
And first prize went to American Joan Fleitas. Casa Alianza was awarded third prize for its website, which is dedicated to the rehabilitation and defense of street children in Guatemala, Honduras, Mexico and Nicaragua. UNICEF Canada was awarded second prize for their multiplayer simulation game, The Global Village. And Epilepsy Queensland won first prize for Little Poss Club. Its site uses a child-friendly tool to teach children everywhere about the world's most common brain disorder, epilepsy. Muldreth Manor School from the UK was awarded third prize. Its innovative website caters for pupils with cerebral palsy and allows disabled children to demonstrate their achievements and to communicate with a wider world. The second prize winner was Giuliu Zamfirescu School. Working with limited resources from their school in Romania, Petru Dumitru and his team have produced a rich anthology of children's games, rhymes, tongue twisters and customs from over 32 countries.
This award means a lot for us and for Romania too.
Thank you.
And Sutton Park School from Ireland won first prize for their Mission Possible website. The National Museum of Namibia was awarded first prize for Insectathon. They held a contest which directly involved 92 children from 16 schools throughout Namibia. Joanne Tate from Australia was singled out for her special award. She has undertaken a mammoth 5 sites, which all demonstrate concern for local and disadvantaged communities. And after the final awards were handed out, and the winners were allowed to soak up the last of the Barbados sun, Ireland's Rory Byrne summed up the whole event.
It's fantastic. All the entries here have been incredible, and to pick our site out is just amazing. I think it's been a long workload to get here, but I think that getting here, it shows and to us that internationally we are all striving to do different things and useful things using the internet.
Well, it's all over for another year, but next year's awards are in Washington, D.C., which gives me just about enough time to build up my tan here in Blighty. On the other hand, perhaps not. We're going to leave you now with some of the lasting images from the Childnet Awards. So from me, David Lee, and the rest of the Learning Curve team, goodbye.
Welcome to Washington, D.C.
Welcome to Washington, D.C.
Welcome to Washington, D.C. All right. Great job.
come to Washington, D.C.
in 2001
for the Childnet Awards. Yay!